Hello. If you're watching this, it can only mean that you have enrolled in an online history class at Mountain View College. My name is Professor Ryan Pettengill, and I'll be your instructor for the coming semester. And what I'm hoping to do with this video segment is get you acquainted with the class by doing two things. One, introducing myself and taking you through the syllabus, and two, going through the expectations, requirements, and guidelines for History 1302 this semester. So with all of that being said, if you have not yet downloaded a copy of the syllabus, what I'd like you to do is put me on pause. You can come back to me here in a second, but go ahead and put me on pause and then download a copy of the syllabus. If you have logged into Blackboard, you should see a button toward the top of that left-hand side of the screen called Start Here. If you click that button, you should see a course syllabus and an attachment to go along with it. You can download a copy of the syllabus there. Come back after you've printed it out or it's available and you can follow along with me. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of go through a brief introduction of who I am. I've linked a brief bio in Blackboard. It should be there with Start Here. And so that should give you a little bit better idea as to who I am. But I think that doing this will, help explain how and why I approach the class the way that I do. I've been with Mountain View College for several years now. I came down from Michigan State in 2009. It was at Michigan State that I completed my PhD. I focused my attention on labor and working class history. Now, the reason that that's important is if you know that I'm essentially a labor historian, then the rest of the class and how I approach it should make a lot more sense. If you're wondering why you're getting hit over the head every week with this labor working class history stuff, it's because professors, not just historians, but chemists and mathematicians and English professors, all of us, we generally do tend to emphasize the things that we focus on within our research, graduate school, or our professional careers. And that just so happens to be mine. If there's more that you want to know about me, again, I would direct you to Blackboard because time really is of the essence with this video segment. The next thing I want to do is talk to you about how you get in touch with me. And one of the things that I always tell my online students is communication is one of the top three things, when it comes to importance and its correlation with student completion, right? I want you to complete this class, not just complete it, but complete it with a grade that you're satisfied with. In order to do that, you need to communicate effectively with me. The best way to do that would be through email. Now, you see my email address listed at the top of the syllabus there. I check that regularly throughout the day. And if you get me a message between Monday and Thursday before 3 o'clock, there's a very good chance that I respond the same day. If it's after 3 or if it's over the weekend, then that's going to be a little bit slower, but I'd like to think that I'm approachable during those times as well. If you happen to be around town and you want to swing by Mountain View College, I do have an office here. It's located in W as in West, W243. Knock on my door, especially if you see the light on. If you see that light on, it means I want you to find me. I tend to get to campus relatively early. If you're an early bird like I am, feel free to knock on my door. The early morning, especially before I go to lecture, is a really good time to get in touch with me and to talk about whatever it is that we need to talk about. I also have office hours, which you can see listed at the top of the syllabus there, right underneath my office location. The class itself is entirely online, which means that it's been designed so that you're not expected to come into Mountain View College. Now, if you're around town and you're here somewhat regularly anyway, please feel free to take advantages of all the resources, and there are a lot of resources that Mountain View has to offer. Great library, great writing center. There's all kinds of help organizations here on campus that you can have access to. But I'm never going to ask you to come in to physically turn in anything. Generally, if you have something that you need to discuss with me, we can do that remotely. It's not that I don't want to talk to you, it's just that my expectation is that this is a distance learning class, and therefore you shouldn't need to actually come in to complete the class. Every assignment, everything that you're going to submit is going to be done electronically through Blackboard. Okay? I've listed a few important phone numbers, including my office phone number. If you call my office and I don't answer, if you leave me a voicemail, there's a good chance that I respond through email. It's just a little bit quicker on my end. And I don't really know the circumstances in which you need it, but I did list the division office, the social sciences division office phone number. If you're having trouble tracking me down, they're pretty good at getting in touch with me, so there's that in case you need it. Let's talk a little bit about the course. History 1302 is the second half of the U.S. survey, which means that, at least officially, it starts in 1877, and it's going to run through what the catalog says the present. I'm going to take that to 2010, right, 2010. So you'll go a good solid decade deep into the 21st century. The starting date, as far as I'm concerned, is a little bit fluid. I don't stick to 1877 as if my life depended on it. I kind of start out in what I vaguely call the late 19th century. But throughout the course of that time period, the late 19th century to the early 21st century, we're going to talk about a lot of themes, a lot of issues, a lot of events that, you know, if they were presented to you in your high school class, even a college class, they might not have been emphasized the way that I'm going to emphasize them. Of course, I talk about people like Teddy Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan. I talk about things like World War II and the Cold War and all that good stuff, but I tend not to emphasize political history. I tend not to emphasize things like military history, which I think a lot of the people that are put off by history, they don't like it very much, that's really been their experience up until this point. You hear about these great men doing great things, and that's all fine and well, and sometimes that's unavoidable to talk about, but generally what I emphasize are the people that don't make their names into history books. And I'm hopeful that that's, on the one hand, going to give you a deeper appreciation for American history, and secondly, shed a lot of light on how we got to this particular moment in time in the United States. Okay. The other thing that I want to emphasize, you may have noticed about this class, is it's called and cataloged a writing intensive class, a WIC. Now, number one, I want you to understand that there's absolutely no difference between a regular class with me that's not entitled WIC and a writing intensive class. They're absolutely identical. Okay? I'm going to make you write whether or not it says WIC next to the name of the course or not, right? So understand that they're absolutely identical. There is no tangible difference in between what you have cataloged as a WIC and a non-WIC, at least as far as I'm concerned. The upside, the big advantage of taking this class is if you complete it with an A, you will qualify for honors credits. You don't have to write another paper. You don't have to do a special project. Once you complete the class and you're at an A, right, you have already qualified for honors credit. You can put that on your resume. It'll officially be noted on your transcripts, and if you're graduating from Mountain View College, you'll be able to be recognized as such for our graduation ceremony. Okay? So anyway, that's what a writing intensive class is. It's a class that very much emphasizes writing. Let's talk a little bit about the books that you need, because there is kind of a hierarchy in the order in which you need them. The book that you need right now, as in today, right, is a book by Upton Sinclair called The Jungle. Most of yours are probably going to look like this. Blue cover, that's certainly the one that's available over there in the bookstore. The good news is about The Jungle, it doesn't matter what edition you have, doesn't matter what your cover looks like, as long as it's the unabridged version, right? You can go ahead and buy the cheapest one you can find. I've seen it at half-price books. I've seen it at Barnes & Noble for very, very cheap. And the one that's going over there at the bookstore is, I'm pretty sure it's under $15. In any case, go ahead, get yourself a copy of The Jungle and start reading it. As a matter of fact, when you get done watching me, I think it would be a great idea for you to at least begin reading The Jungle. The second book that you need it pretty quickly, is this book right here. It's called Voices of the American Nation. It's got a blue cover. Typically, I will abbreviate it. I'll just call it The American Nation. Anyway, the downside with this book is that it's a custom job that's specifically designed for our class, which means that you can't find it anywhere on Amazon. If you try, you're not going to have any luck. The good news is the bookstore is selling it, and I'm pretty sure it's under $30, and you might even be able to find it for cheaper than that if you can get a copy of a used version. Anyway, you need a copy of that. If getting a copy, you can either go into the bookstore or you can order it through them online. They'll ship it wherever you want it to go. If any reason is a problem when it comes to getting a hold of one of these books, understand that I've put 2 copies on reserve in the library. So if you walk into the library and you ask to check it out, you can keep it for as long as you want, as long as it doesn't leave the library. So when they close, you have to check it back in. If you've had it for over 2 hours and somebody else needs it, then they're going to have preference. But it is a very cheap way of having access to the course material. If that's not going to work, you're not around Mountain View College, contact me and we'll find a way to get you a copy of this thing. All right? The last book that you need is a book that you probably have heard of before. It's by J.D. Salinger. It's called Catcher in the Rye. My copy looks like this. The copy that's over there in the bookstore is probably not going to look like that, so if yours doesn't look like mine, it's not a problem at all. Much like The Jungle, what I want you to do is find the cheapest copy that you can, and as long as it's unabridged, it's the original copy, you're good to go. Okay? Now, the nice thing about both The Jungle and The Catcher in the Rye is I have linked both of them in Blackboard. You can read them and read them for free if you don't mind reading on your phone, tablet, computer, or you can print for cheap or free. If you go into the tab that's called Course Information, you will see a folder entitled Online Texts. Right? Open up that folder and you'll see a copy of both The Jungle and The Catcher in the Rye. You can download it for free, and if that helps you, then I'm more than happy to help. Okay? Those are the books. A lot of what is in the syllabus I'm going to leave up to you to read on your time, and I highly encourage you to be very familiar with the syllabus. It will be our Bible for the next several weeks. In any case, what I want you to understand about my objectives with this class, I don't have any, misinformed idea that 12, 15 years down the road in your professional career, you're going to be using the things that we learn in History 1302, at least the details, the specific details of the historical information. I'm hopeful that on the one hand, you have a rough idea of how we got to this particular moment in the 21st century, that it's not just coming out of left field, coming out of the blue. And I'm also hopeful that it makes you a better citizen so that you can be an informed voter and be an informed citizen. But really, what I'm hopeful that you take away from this class is that you're just a better student, that you know how to read more critically, that simply because it's written there in the Harvard University Press doesn't make it absolute gospel, unapproachable truth, dogmatic truth. I'm also hopeful that you become a better writer. Obviously, this is a writing-intensive class, and I'm going to make you practice, and that's the best way to get better at writing is to practice. I'm very hopeful that you walk away from this class being a more critical thinker, and similar to critical reading, that you have a tendency to question the things that you hear, whether that is in the news or the newspaper or on a blog or something. That you don't just accept something at face value. You go and you check out a multitude of various sources on the issue. Okay? So generally speaking, what I'm hopeful to develop here, which are very marketable skills, what I'm hopeful that we develop are academic skills that translate not only into other courses, whether that's at Mountain View or beyond, but in the real world, right? I don't care if you're going into criminal justice, nursing, chemistry, teaching, whatever it is that you're planning on becoming. there will come a point in time where your superior is going to come to you and say, listen, I need you to analyze all this information from all these different sources, and I need you to make some sense of it, and that needs to be made sense in writing. And the skills that we're creating and developing in this course will lend themselves well to the real world once you get there, okay? Let's talk a little bit about the outline. You're looking at the outline, the bottom of page 3 there. I want you to refer back to that almost on a daily basis. I think it'd be a great idea for you to download a copy of this thing in your phone. That way you have easy access to it. You can pull it up whenever you need it, whether at the mall or at work or even if you're on Mountain View's campus. The outline will tell you what to do and when to do it by. So for example, if you want to look at week 1 right now, you will notice that we have at least one discussion forum that's due by the end of this week, okay? I'll talk a little bit more about what a discussion forum is here in just a moment, but you will also see reading assignments. You will also see what video lectures you need to watch, what lessons in transforming America you need to watch, okay? So in any case, that's what I want you to focus on when you're going through these week by week assignments. Skip down to the evaluation procedures, because the question that should be on everyone's mind at this point is, how do I get the best grade in this class by putting as little work into the class as possible? Now, I am not telling you to blow off this class, and I'm certainly not suggesting that it's going to be easy. What I'm saying is that there is such a thing as overworking and overthinking in anything, History 1302 or chemistry or whatever it is that you're taking, right? You need to learn how to work smarter and not necessarily harder. The good news is, in every class, mine included, there are ways of maximizing your efficiency and your productivity. The best thing that you can do is you can do what I ask of you when it comes to participating in the class. On the one hand, watch those video lectures, right? Watch them, because simply by watching them or even listening to them, you can be at the gym on a Stairmaster, just listening to them, you will absorb information that is going to be vitally important for your success in this class. The other thing that I'm going to need you to do is complete what I call a discussion forum, at least one per week, okay? Now, a discussion forum, what you typically lose in an online class like this is the interaction with your classmates and with me. And so to make up for that, what I've done is I've linked a open-ended question that will 9 times out of 10, not always, but many times, correspond with your blue book, The American Nation. It'll refer you to either a chapter or a specific page number within a chapter, have you analyze documents, and then throw your 2 cents into the pot. For example, what do you think Franklin Roosevelt means when he says in 1933, as he's being inaugurated as president? What do you think he means when he says the only thing that we have to fear is fear itself? What does that mean? And so that's what you're going to be doing with these discussion forums. The way that I always look at them is, if you've ever kept a journal in like a history or a writing class, it's kind of like keeping a journal. I don't comb over these discussion forums when I grade them for proper grammar or did you see this very specific passage. I just really want you to do them and demonstrate that you read the documents that I ask you to read. That's really the easiest thing you can do, because you have absolute control over it. As long as you keep up with them, there really isn't any reason that everybody shouldn't get a 15 out of 15 possible points for that part of the class. The next accessible, shall we say, part of the class would be the quizzes. They aren't really quizzes as in, open your books and clear your desk. They're more or less open book, open note writing assignments. The quizzes will point you, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they will point you to a specific document or set of documents, ask you to analyze them, and make some sense out of them. What historians do is they analyze things called primary documents, newspaper articles, texts of speeches, documents that are written by generals or politicians or whatever, and that's how we write history. And that's what I'm asking you to do with these quizzes, okay? What does this mean? There will be a time that I ask you to analyze some help wanted ads from the Chicago Daily Tribune, which may seem very out there when it comes to where are you going with this, but you'll see what I mean when you take a look at those help wanted ads, those job advertisement ads, okay? Anyway, the quizzes are worth 3 points apiece. I'm going to give you 6 over the course of the semester, but you're only responsible for 5. So that means if you miss one, you can still score 15 out of a possibility of 15. Which begs the question, what happens if you do 6 and you do them all very well? You get 3 out of every possibility. The answer is 3 points of extra credit. So there's a lot of different ways to get to where you want to go, which should be an A. Your goal should be an A. And there's a lot of different avenues that you can take to get there. Completing 6 quizzes is one. The papers are going to become more difficult. There's just no other way around that. They are more difficult. The lifting is heavier. You're going to see 2 of them. Each of them are going to be between 2 and 3 pages long, double spaced. Everything that you write in here is going to be double spaced. And they're going to be based on those 2 novels that I presented earlier here in this video segment, The Jungle and The Catcher in the Rye. That's why those 2 books are so important, and you need them very quickly here, okay? So you're going to be asked to address this open-ended question primarily using books like The Jungle, but also your American Nation book, and of course my lectures. You're going to be asked to make sense of this open-ended question, which is not necessarily opinion-based, but you're going to have to take a strong stand on that question and using empirical data documents to support your position. Okay? Each of them are going to be worth 10 percentage points for a grand total of 20% of your cumulative grade. Unlike the quizzes, which if you miss them, they just turn into zeros. You can turn in a paper late. Just understand for every day that it is late, and I can track when it was turned in on Blackboard, for every day that it's late, it goes down 2.5 percentage points. So if it's more than 4 days late, or actually it's more than 3 days late, even if it's a perfectly written paper, it's not going to be worth anything. Just know that, okay? There are 2 exams in this class. One is the midterm, the other is the final exam. They're both worth 25 percentage points of your cumulative grade, and they're both identical in the sense that they're a combination of multiple choice, short answer, and one long written essay question. I will be a lot more specific in terms of what you can expect a little bit later as the due dates of those exams approach. Just for the time being, understand that it's going to require you to do a multitude of things when it comes to navigating them. And number 2, they will be entirely online. You do not need to leave your house, apartment, hotel room, wherever it is that you're taking this class from. Underneath the evaluation procedure section, you will see my grading scale. People ask me, do you grade on a curve? And my answer is no. What happens if you end the class at an 88.5 is that translates into a B, as you can clearly see in my grading scale there. Now, I'm not mean. I don't go out of my way to give people a lower grade. If you've got a 91.5876427, you know, I round up to a 92 and that translates into an A. Just don't go into this class assuming that I use the grenade approach, close enough is good enough. I use some discretion when I give final grades, but ultimately this is a very good estimate of where you are at any given point in the class, okay? Aside from all of that, you see late policies, late work policies, late paper policies, makeup exam policies. Basically, if you miss something, the onus is really on you to get with me and determine how and when you're going to make that up. You also should see the withdrawal policy when you have to withdraw from this class without it appearing on your final transcripts, usually as an F. Please read the section that's entitled Stop Before You Drop. There are actual consequences for dropping classes. Those of you that are receiving financial aid will be familiar with what I'm talking about. There's a few other things, there's a few other parts of this syllabus that I'd like you to be very familiar with. Probably most importantly on the last page, academic honesty, maybe better put academic dishonesty. I take the issue of plagiarism very, very serious in this class. I'm not trying to make a threat here, but if I find that you've plagiarized something, whether that's a quiz or a paper or an exam, the consequence will be you fail at least that assignment. And a lot of times failing an assignment, I mean, think about it, 10% of your grade, that's a big chunk of the grade. Failing the assignment has pretty dire consequences for failing the class. Okay. Anyway, the good news is it's very easy to avoid plagiarizing in this class. Just do your own work. If you're having trouble starting the paper, call me, come see me, email me, and I'd be more than happy to help you along. To make sure that everybody is familiar with plagiarism, what it is, and how to avoid it, I have linked an extra credit assignment in Blackboard's course information section. Some of you may have done this exercise before. It's an online quiz through Indiana University's Writing Center, how you can avoid plagiarism. At the end of that quiz, it'll ask you, would you like to print out this certificate to demonstrate that you've done this quiz? Click yes, print it out, and I've created a Dropbox in the course information tab that you can upload your certificate, and if you do that, I'll give you 1 percentage point of extra credit. So we're already up to 4 points of extra credit, and the class hasn't even really in earnest begun yet. Okay, so that's academic honesty. Last thing that I want to emphasize, and then I'll let you go. I reserve the right to change something, alter something when it comes to this syllabus. Now, most of the time, anytime I change something, it usually works out in your best interest anyway. Usually it means I'm backing up a quiz or I'm reopening a discussion forum or something along those lines. But I do want you to understand that the syllabus is a binding contract between me and you need to be familiar with this, so please understand that there may be times throughout the semester that I need to change something on here. That's the class in a nutshell. I'd also encourage you to watch the video also in Start Here and Course Information called How to Be Successful in This Class. It'll reiterate some of the things that I've talked about here, but it will also point out various ways that you can do more with less. You can work smarter, not harder. So go ahead and watch that when and if you get a chance. Aside from that, if there's any other questions that you have, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm looking forward to a fruitful and productive semester with you. I'm hopeful that if you wear glasses, they're nice and polished. Lots of reading to do. I'm hopeful that you're ready to write. I'm going to make you write until your fingertips fall off. But you'll be a better student because of that. So in any case, if there's anything else that I can do to make this class more pleasant for you, the experience more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to let me know. Best of luck, and I'll see you soon.